Because in your business, there's things you know you don't know, things you don't know that you know, and things you don't know.
Less expensive. You'll be able to have better service and a better product.
We know how to do underwater. We know how to do deep space. We know how to do it and get it on any rocket or any submarine anywhere on the planet.
Are you ready to make the most of MOSA? I know I am. Hi, I'm Rusty Humphreys. We are making the most of MOSA with Jim Scott. He is the senior engineer and CEO of Seco Seals. He is an engineer that has his products in, I don't know if I can say the companies, but they're all companies that you hear of, they're every day, but he keeps planes in the air and satellites in space and rockets going up and submarines going down and just about everything that you can think of that keeps you hot, keeps you cold, that helps your everyday life. Jim's products are a part of those incredible engineering feats. And one of the things that we're doing is we are trying to help businesses and entrepreneurs understand this concept called MOSA. MOSA is what, Jim Scott?
Modular Open Systems Approach.
Okay.
Plug and play.
And that's the key thing. It's plug and play. And this is important because what?
Because it's something we know. Because in your business, there's things you know you don't know, things you don't know that you know, and things you don't know.
Okay, let's start off with some fun ones. Things that we know, businesses that have not succeeded. They were once big. Sears was impossible to ever go out of business, and yet here we are, they're gone. And I want to use them. We've talked about them in past episodes, but businesses that should have done more open source they didn't grow, they didn't adapt, and because that, they're not around anymore. Borders books. Everybody reads, everybody reads books. They don't read books as much anymore.
Right.
Is that the only reason that Borders is not around anymore?
No, they didn't. Their business model did not adapt to be open source, and it was overrun by Amazon. It should be borders.com, right? But it wasn't. They didn't. They had the open source books, but they didn't roll over into the digital age and the online ordering.
Okay. Another big one, Circuit City was on every street corner. Everybody went. It was Circuit City and Best Buy. And even today you go to Best Buy and they're not as exciting as they used to be. What's going on with those businesses with Circuit City? Why didn't they make it?
Well, they didn't think of Geek Squad.
Okay.
In my opinion, they didn't go to the online model like all these others. You're talking about companies that died when things went online. But the secret of success for Best Buy was the Geek Squad, because you buy this piece of equipment as an average user. I don't know how to turn it on and program it and make all this stuff. So I needed a technician at the next level to get it set up and service it.
Okay.
I bought this thing, and they have the open source, the technicians, the tools, the test tools, and the components to make it work, because computers break and get glitches all the time. Mine does, right? And especially back in the day when they were growing.
And how would MOSA have helped them?
That they weren't just a hardware company; they were a software application company. And they use open source technology. They train their technicians to go out and use standard components to fix standard products.
But what Circuit City did was basically they said, we're doing it the Circuit City way, and this is our way, and we made it that way, and because of that, we're going to keep our system closed. And because of that, they didn't succeed.
Companies fail for a multitude of reasons, but certainly they didn't adapt and roll. And they could have, if they had more open source adaptability, they would have been. Open source allows you to change quicker, faster, and be more nimble.
Okay. Here's one I don't understand. I still don't get why Toys R Us went out of business. And now they're a corner in the third floor of the Macy's at the mall.
People go into stores to buy toys, but you make your money upselling a lot of other things, and now they were superseded by the Walmarts of the world in other locations.
Okay,
that they were a destination, but unless you're like Party City, this survived. People throw parties all the time, and everything you need for parties in Party City.
Right,
but toys can be in the back of the store of something else, and you're picking up milk and bananas and
which is
else.
why Walmart went to, because Walmart didn't have food when it first came out, as I recall anyway. It was, and then they expanded to food and pharmacy and everything else. Then they got the Super Walmart. Same with Target, right?
Right.
That's more of a MOSA thing where they went open source. They started selling everything.
Right. So yeah, and so if you look at the profit centers, now we're talking about profit centers of business, like Sears at the time. They have all this stuff, and that one Allstate insurance booth.
Oh, I remember that. There was always like one lady sitting in there by herself reading a book.
And that was like half the profit of Sears.
What?
It was foot traffic for that.
Oh, come on.
Oh, yes.
You're making that up.
No, it's a lot of, just because you're bigger and moving around, they did a lot of great stuff. I had Sears stuff and Craftsman tools.
Right.
And their branded products. But that is where it was at.
Half the profit of Sears came from the Allstate, the little Allstate booth.
Yes, right. Because there's more margin in insurance than there is in.
Wait a second. Bill, turn that camera on. Bill's the engineer back there. Bill, did you know that half the profit of the Sears store was the Allstate booth?
I did not. What's Sears?
All Sears stores. Yeah, what's Sears? Thank you very much. So Bill was in the military. You were in which branch?
I was in the Navy.
You were in the Navy. Now, when you were in the Navy, did they talk about this MOSA thing back then? I know it's big in the military now.
No, there was no discussion of MOSA. I've never even heard the term until we started the show.
Okay. Does it make sense as a guy that was in the military? Would you like to have seen more of what Jim's talking about here?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it would be so nice to have off-the-shelf products you can go pick up to do repairs or just simple things as cleaning.
So, Jim, okay, I'm a businessman. We're trying to help businessmen and entrepreneurs understand this MOSA thing so they can build their business, scale their business. Man, I don't want to have her be able to make my thing by going to Home Depot. I want to be able to sell it. Don't I? What am I missing here? I want to make money. I don't want to have half my stuff be stuff that you could put together.
Well, if you look at your business, you're going to find that the profit, like I'm not a McDonald's guy, but the money's in McDonald's is in the French fries and the sodas.
Okay.
The profit margin, not in the burgers, right? So you have to find out which are your profit items. One of my jobs early on was working in a supermarket, and they told me early on that like most of their profit was alcohol and cigarettes. Those are the items that had the high profit margins, and the rest of it was an accommodation, and it moved people through. They made money off food, but it was alcohol and cigarettes.
Okay, so what is it that you make that makes you unique, that makes you the most money? How can you focus on that as opposed to ancillary things that really don't make that much difference for you? Is that kind of the way you want to think about it?
Right. But then you get into the branding. So if you make a product like a WD-40 or, you make a generic one, it's not enough to go to the store to use the WD-40 or the generic. It's the chain of custody of the people that make it. If it's a critical application, you want to use it. Like generic medicines have to really come from a certified lab.
Mm-hmm.
So where we do it is we have chain of custody from the mill, because one of the things, you can't use conflict minerals in making products from the mill, and we keep track of it all the way till it goes in the box.
What do you mean conflict minerals?
Well, there's a law that you can't, you can't use certain metals from Africa, that are in conflict areas, and they passed a law that you can't use it from there. You can't use a refining mill that's in China. It's got to be from the U.S. or maybe a couple Western European mills, right? Why is that?
Why is that?
Why is that? Used to not have that because they had a refinery, not in the U.S., that melted down metal, and they're trying to recycle, and they made just steel pipes.
Okay.
Sounds like a great thing, except they melted down the old dental chairs that had the radiation in it.
Ooh.
And so you had all these pipes that got installed in all these buildings that are radioactive, and they had to go take them out. Right.
Right.
So they go, can't do that. So that they put the government learns and the industries learns is, okay, we don't want to do that. So we make a standard. You can only buy from these guys because we know they're doing it right.
Okay, all right, well, that makes sense. Now, there's a thing that hit the news called Orca. Well, what is this story? And you've been pretty excited about this.
Well, Orca is the I read the story. We're not involved in that as a production, but they've been working on a long time. It's an autonomous underwater submarine. Meaning that it just runs by itself.
Okay.
And so I looked at this news article and thought about it, the process of what it would take to do it. And they obviously are going to be using some MOSA principles of standard products like the ATRs, or where they can insert modules of electronics, communication softwares, satellite telemetry, variable power plants.
So these basically like underwater drones?
Underwater drones.
Okay.
And from what I understand, they're going to make a lot of them, and they'll accompany the fleet, the above water fleets with these and they'll patrol the underwater with surveillance, telemetry, and intel, just like satellites, and they'll be underwater satellites.
But so from what you understand, this would have to be MOSA compliant. They're going to have a lot of the same parts that they can switch it out rather quickly and easily, right?
Right, because unlike a ship where you have a person and a technician that can fix a bug or a glitch, they have to really work because there's nobody there.
Right.
Right, so it has to be standard. And they probably, if I was building it, they'd have redundant systems, just like space systems. They'd have 1 or 2, 3 backups. A fails, slips over to B, flips over to C.
Right. Okay, so when you take a look at what they did with these autonomous drone submarine things, and you looked at how do they implement, what are some of the things they did for implementation across these projects? So one of the things, they did a modular design, right?
Right.
Which means what?
They componentize their ships, or any vessel is built in components. And so they have specialized components because the propulsion guy is not going to be the guy who does the radios.
Okay.
Necessarily, right? It's a whole different genre. And so,
so back to the plug and play thing you talked about, right?
Well, so the thing that works in the military is they have a supply system. So everything has a supply system, has a national stock number, which is a fixed time space of a product that goes on there. So before they put something in the water, they have to have everything that's on the boat or the float, and all the pieces on it, and how to repair it, and then a repair schedule and an assembly. I mean, they're all about writing everything down.
Okay.
Because that's otherwise it doesn't work, right? So it's forced into, by its nature of the military supply system. In most large OEM supply systems, it's all standardized, and there's a number or a SKU,
right,
or something, or a UPC number that's fixed in, like UPC.
Which to me, when you talk about the military, that seems to go without saying. It's going to be that way. It's a military standard. That's it.
That's it. And they have to be mil standard in what. And so they have to write everything down. There's they allow a limited amount of proprietary because they're worried about survivability. You go out of, like we talked before, you go out of business. If that supplier, we can't use $50 billion worth of subs, right?
Right. So you as an entrepreneur, somebody listening to this as an entrepreneur wanting to get involved in this, they would have to make sure that they've got these standardized sizes, the standardized modular designs, standardized thing that they wrote down, went through the process, made it easier for the government to understand that that's the government. Yes, we'll take that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
So a standardized process, that's the first thing you want to do as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, to want to go and be able to get to have your product military standard.
Well, I think that the process, you're climbing the mountain to get in the right shape. And by climbing that mountain, even if you don't sell to the government, the stuff that they'll help you. There's a small business office and a small business administration, the GSA, they help you along the way. And they answer all the questions because there's all these things you don't know. But they know, and they'll help you figure it out. And they'll just make you better.
Okay.
Right? And they're not For the
I
military,
hate dealing with the government. It seems like, it's like, okay, here's what we're going to do, Rusty. We want you to go to the DMV and go and talk to them about how to drive better. I mean, it just sounds like, oh, God, please help me. No, anything but that.
Right. So I had a midlife financial crisis because I was working in the business and I was paying so much money in taxes. It was really frustrating me. So I went back to tax school and I became an enrolled agent, which allowed me, I said, this is stupid. I'm delegating my financial. So I became an enrolled agent and learned how to fill out every tax form and read up the tax code because I knew how to read, right?
He's that kind of a boring guy, folks.
Well, no, it was survival because I knew I wouldn't stay in business if I didn't plan my business to work with the government tax rules.
Okay.
Right? You don't get
It's actually smart. Not a lot of people could do this.
Well, but I at the time I couldn't afford the guy that I needed to get. So I had to do it myself,
right?
Because the people that were—
Because you're an entrepreneur, that's what they do, right?
Right. You do what you got to do to keep the doors open,
right? And
so by doing that, I got better legally because I don't write fiction. I do everything by the book, and because you have to make a decision. You're either going to be a good guy or you're going to cut corners,
right?
And so I made that decision. I'm going to do it 100% audible. Wow. Come in and look at my books. Everything's spot on.
Right.
It's audit proof. I pay all my taxes according to, can I understand it now? But now I talk to my CPA and we converse and make sure everything is right.
Right.
And when you get organized financially, magically, the rest of your business starts, where everything goes.
Okay.
And you can manage decisions for KPIs, key performance indicators. And you can make metrics for yourself that are attainable in a series. If you're in your own business, you know about KPIs.
Sure.
And you're going to you have incremental steps to get the metaphorical ball down the field, and you can see if you're doing the right direction. And if not, you back up and go back down. And then this MOSA overlay, it's just a reference point. It's a guardrail. Am I going up into because if you don't use a MOSA or open source, you have to engineer. And you have non-recurring engineering engineering charge. You're pioneering. Pioneering is expensive.
Okay.
And it's risky. It's hard to make money with risky products.
Because you don't know if they're going to work or not.
Right. And you're vested and you get stuck in things and you start engineering everything. I want all this proprietary stuff.
I would think that a lot of entrepreneurs go in with that. I'm going to have all this proprietary stuff that nobody can rip off. And because of that, I'm going to be able to have this one thing that nobody else can do.
Well, my philosophy, if you're small, just give it away and be the best at it and have them be partners. Have your customers and developer, the guys that sign, be your partners. They're the ones who put you on the prints.
Okay, give it away again. I do not understand that concept. Why would I build a business and just give it away?
No, you're giving away your design.
Okay.
So they can put it, because they're always going to put it on your design, on their product, and then say you're a source of supply.
Give me an example.
I want to build this submarine. They have tubes. They have all these tubes on there.
Okay.
And at the connectors, they're going to be using 37-degree flared tube fittings. And they're going to use a seal, which is a standard seal.
And that's what you make.
Right. And they're going to test it with a Seco seal, my seal. And I give them my design. And I give them, and I developed the installation instructions for the government, which they made into a standard. Now, you could go make this tomorrow. You won't make it as well as me.
Right.
Because I got a head start.
So what I find interesting about your stuff is you could take it from that and go into a air conditioner and use the same type of seal, maybe a different standardized size, but that air conditioner could also be used with the same basic seal. And you could take that and fix air conditioners and cooling systems and airplanes. And that's the idea here, right? Is to make sure everything is the same size and standardized and approved by the government in a way that they know your thing works every single time, 100% of the time, and never fails.
Right. Because if you go out of business, they still need to have to make it.
Okay.
So, and a lot of fights with big companies is release of proprietary, patentable, and licensing. You get tied up. And I'm saying, as a small company, you can't. You're not at that stage. If you have something better, Just give it to them, have them use it, test it.
And when you say give it to them, just give it to them for the design, and your product is less expensive. It's not worth making it for them. You're cheap enough or inexpensive enough that just buy it from that guy because it's
because they're
a pain in the
spending.
butt.
Like we made a product for an engine company, and we gave them the design,
Okay.
and they built it, and we were source supply, but they spent $500,000 testing it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
For somebody else to go in, they're going to have to spend $500,000 to test it.
And now that since that guy tested your product, you're able to put that into other products because it's already been tested. Same with the thing that goes in the air. You said you need 500 hours. Well, your thing's been in an airplane over 500 hours, so you can take that same product and put it in all kinds of different.
Right. So if you get into the design, then it's a barrier to interest because they like you, they trust you, you have all their documentations. They have a million other products they need to worry about. They don't want to worry about you.
Right.
Right. And I've had success repetitively with that. And that's better than a patent.
Right. And that's the best thing to be as a supplier, the guy that you don't have to worry about. We just get that thing, and that's the last thing we got to worry about. I got 10 other things, 1,000 of things I got to worry about. I don't want to worry about what Jim does. It's taken care of.
Yeah. And you want to be the Kleenex, you want to be the Scotch tape, you want to be the Frisbee, you want to be the name.
The Seco Seal.
The Seco Seal. Mm-hmm. They're called Seco. I'm in all the NASA labs. It's called a Seco Seal. Mm-hmm. It's just what you put on there.
Just like you take a Kleenex.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. They ask for a Seco Seal. They don't ask for a Rusty Seal.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, now I feel left out.
No, we'll make you a special one.
All right.
We'll make you a special one.
Thank you. That's good. All right, listen. So that's a way to successfully use design concepts. That's,
right. When you put it in your SWOT analysis,
what is SWOT?
SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats.
Okay.
Right. And you have your KPIs. So you go through your strengths. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are my opportunities? What are my threats? And then, how does the MOSA, how does the standard use of open source products fit into my product line and my vision for my business
and
plan?
Again, the key to what Jim's talking about is to, while you're creating your product, use as much standardized things that you can get off the shelf wherever in creating what it is that you create, so you can make sure that your special secret sauce is in there, but most of what it is open sourced materials.
Right. So one of the exciting products that I'm working on today, right, and I'll release it here so there's a thing called a transducer. A transducer is a thermometer and a pressure sensor that goes in almost every. You might have 150 on a car. And there are things that check the oil temperature, and every time there's a gauge and all the sensors, right? And on an aircraft or a military vehicle, they'll check the temperature of the oil, pressure outside, the landing gear, pressure in the tires, and that kind of thing. So when you're drilling an oil well, they need to know the drilling mud and the pressure and what the temperature. And so there's 1,000 transducer makers, and they have thousands of different designs.
Okay.
One of the problems is we have a guy came to me, is in Fountain Valley. He has transducers for the high end because they're pushing the envelope.
Okay.
They're delicate instruments, but they're one-offs. He has trouble making 10 or 20, right? That's a big order for him.
Okay.
And they're specialized. So what we're doing is making a standardized housing on a MOSA principle to stick it in ours, and it'll plug in any tube fitting system on anything in the world. The interconnects are not standard on him.
Okay.
So we had to put him in Seco boot camp to design it. We turned it around.
Mm-hmm.
If we can take his product, which is a 50-year-old company as well, but it's onesie, twosie, and this and that, and it's a lot of work. He's always having to change and figure out this thing. It'll be the same on the inside, and we know how to do the outside. We're already there. Right. We know how to do underwater. We know how to do deep space. We know how to do it and get it on any rocket or any submarine anywhere on the planet, right? So we can make his stuff for like geothermal.
So you turned his secret sauce product and you added some of your own stuff, making it MOSA so it would fit more places easier.
Right. So we don't know anything about making transducers which do pressure and temperature, but we do know about pressure on the outside and corrosion and temperature of the outside, like cryogenics. Electrics don't work when they're hot. We can use some ceramic insulation and make it up to 1,000 degrees. Or we can put it in 400 degrees salt water and not have it dissolve.
Wow.
We can think of things, engineering, but without changing his engineered product that's already been approved and off the shelf.
Right.
So we have it then, so you can plug it into the manifold, plug it into the drill collar, plug it into the airplane, and then it runs into a tube, which we know how to do, and run the wires to the tube without getting affected as a conduit back to safe space. Doesn't exist.
Right.
Right? And we're making it mil spec. Guess what we're going to do? We're going to give away the design, and we're going to make it.
Because you'll be able to make it less expensive. You'll be able to have better service and a better product.
And we're the only one that has everything. It's easy to design a product, but it's the interconnect, whether it's electrical, it's computer software, or especially high pressure or high performance hydraulics. It's where the connections meet is where you have your failures. And we know how to fix that. Anybody could build that, but you still have to buy the seals from us.
Right, still got to connect.
They still have to connect. So we turned the weakest link into the strongest part. We solved your weakness. We solved your leak. Now go focus, break something else up and down the chain.
Right, and
don't worry about that. Don't worry about your leaks. We've got that one handled. And we'll give you the parameters that it's going to work.
And is that kind of how to get my business more into military specs? And that is fix the weakest link, right?
They don't call you till they have a problem, right? Or if you're an older guy, oh, remember we had the such and such. Let's do this as preemptive planning so that doesn't happen again.
Right.
We lost a lot of money on that one. Because when you have catastrophic failures, they're not, we had a leak on a compressor company had one leak on an O-ring on a compressor. It overheated and burnt down the factory.
Ooh.
Right? Nobody died, but they burn it down, so they have to do a corrective action, a CPAR, or a corrective action report, and it's a big deal to make sure it doesn't happen again for risk mitigation. And the less risky your part is, or your product or your process, then it can scale.
A lot to absorb there. Do us a favor, would you please? Hit the like button, the share button, the subscribe button, also the little bell so you make sure you get notified every time, whether you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. All of them we're out there. X, Twitter. Also, Jim, as the engineer, has a great thing at his website, secoseals.com, and that is Ask the Engineer. If you've got an engineering question and you're not quite sure what to do and how to fix it, you can ask Jim. He'll help you out. You can email him, info@secoseals.com, or go to the website, SecoSeals. Seco is S-E-C-O, secoseals.com, or info@secoseals.com if you want to send Jim an email. Until next time, my name is Rusty Humphreys, and this is Making the Most of MOSA with Jim Scott.